The brass sample valve rocks beside my legal pad every time Martin Vale taps the conference table. He has reached the last slide of our quarterly sales meeting, a photograph of Lacey Grant against a gold background, and he is smiling as though he personally discovered her. At our quarterly sales meeting, I wanted the whole regional team present for this, he says. Lacey earned your entire bonus. He means mine, $42,000. Lacey's smile flickers before she pins it back in place. Around the table, 12 people become fascinated by coffee lids, pens, and the grain of the laminate. I stay quiet as Daniel Cho, finance director for Calder Hospitality, opens the rebate report on his laptop. The report was authorized by his office, not ours. Every completed sale carries one salesperson code. My code. Daniel turns the screen toward Martin. Then he looks at me. Nora, he says, is there a reason your name is on all of these? There are several answers. One of them could cost me my job. Another could cost Bellwether Supply $380,000. The truth will cost more than either, and Martin knows it. 4 months earlier, he had come to my desk carrying 2 coffees and the kind of friendliness that made me check whether my calendar showed a meeting I'd forgotten. Peace offering, he said. We're at war? You've been drinking that one since 7. I looked at the paper cup near my keyboard. The coffee inside had developed a skin sturdy enough to support office furniture. That's not coffee anymore, Martin said. That's a building material. He put the fresh cup beside the brass sample valve I kept on my desk. It was a heavy little thing, no taller than my palm, with a square stem and a scratch tag wired around its neck. Calder Harbor Suite. 418 was written on the tag in faded blue ink. Martin picked it up. Still carrying your trophy? Put it down before you strain something. He laughed and set it back. 12 years earlier, during Bellwether's first renovation for Calder Hospitality, someone had specified a valve body too shallow for the stone surround. I caught it because the sample looked wrong against the wall section. That piece of brass had saved 6 weeks of demolition, though Martin usually told the story as if he and I had been standing shoulder to shoulder when inspiration struck. At the time, he worked 3 states away. He sat on the corner of my desk. Martin was 48, trim, silver starting at the edges of his dark hair. He wore excellent shoes and inexpensive reading glasses because, he claimed, glasses were supposed to look forgettable. I need you to help me with Lacey, he said. Lacey had been with us 11 months. She had come from a lighting distributor and could make a faucet sound like it had a 5-year growth strategy. She was 31, quick on her feet, and terrifyingly good at remembering personal details. She knew which purchasing manager had switched to decaf and which hotel executive hated being called Rich instead of Richard. She asked me yesterday whether a rough-in was the same thing as a mounting kit. I said, she's learning. So is a raccoon with a locked trash can. That doesn't mean I give it the warehouse keys. Martin gave me the patient look he reserved for comments he intended to enjoy later. Calder's expanding. 9 properties over 18 months. They like you, but they're bringing in new ownership people. We need polish in the room and depth behind it. I let that sentence sit between us. Which one am I? You know exactly how valuable you are. That wasn't the question. His smile thinned, then returned warmer. It was one of his real talents. Martin could recover a room before most people noticed he had lost it. I want Lacey customer-facing, he said. I want you handling the technical sales and fulfillment architecture. Think of it as a partnership. Who owns the accounts? You both do. That answer won't fit in the commission field. We'll protect you. There were 3 phrases in business that meant you should ask for paper. Trust me, we're family, and we'll protect you. I turned toward my monitor. Send me the compensation split. Still Nora Pike. Were you hoping the coffee changed me? I was hoping it softened you. It did. I'm almost delightful. He smiled, but he didn't send the split. That night, Owen was at the kitchen table rebuilding a carburetor with a dish towel spread under it. He had rented a narrow repair bay behind a landscaping company after leaving the restaurant partnership that had consumed 6 years and most of our savings. The shop smelled like solvent, rubber, and the peppermint gum he chewed when he was worried. "Is that from a mower?" I asked. "Floor buffer." I was going to guess yacht. "Next quarter." There were unopened envelopes beside his elbow arranged by size as though that made them less expensive. I put my bag down and saw the home equity statement beneath the electric bill. Owen followed my eyes. "I made the interest payment." "I know." "You didn't even open it." "I can tell by where you hid it." "I didn't hide it. I placed it under something emotionally neutral." The electric company threatened to shut us off last winter. More neutral than the bank. I laughed because he needed me to. Then I told him about Calder, Lacey, and Martin's promise to protect me. "How much is that portfolio worth?" he asked. "To Bellwether? A little over $3 million if all 9 renovations release. To you? If the margins hold, my annual bonus hits 42, maybe 45. Owen set down the carburetor. "That clears the ugly loan. The ugliest one." "Then get the split in writing," I asked. "And?" He bought me coffee. "That's almost as good." He picked up a tiny spring with tweezers. Owen had large, scarred hands and astonishing patience with small machinery. People mistook that patience for calm. I knew the difference. "If he doesn't put it in writing," he asked, "I don't train her." His eyes lifted to mine. We both knew I would. Lacey arrived at my desk the next morning with a new notebook, 3 highlighters, and enough enthusiasm to power a mid-sized airport. Martin said, "I'm your shadow." "My shadow doesn't schedule breakfast meetings." I brought blueberry muffins. "You're more aggressive than my shadow." She pulled up a chair. "I know what people think." "Do you?" "That I'm the person he puts in photographs. I hadn't noticed how often you're photographed." "Liar." I looked at her then. Lacey was smiling, but there was strain around it. She had been competent in lighting. She had taken the Bellwether job because Martin promised a fast track to sales director, something I learned later. That morning, all I knew was that she could name every executive on Calder's new ownership team and could not explain why a pressure-balanced shower valve mattered. "Start with this," I said, sliding my valve matrix toward her. It was a spreadsheet I also kept printed because hotel renovations had a way of producing urgent questions in rooms with bad Wi-Fi. Each property had columns for wall depth, trim series, finish lot, valve body, inspection date, delivery window, and authorized substitute. The matrix looked dull enough to sedate a horse. It had prevented more expensive mistakes than any sales speech I'd ever given. Lacey studied it. "This is what you use on client calls?" "This is what lets the client call us only once." For 2 weeks, she listened. She took good notes. She asked why Calder could accept a different drain flange at the Phoenix property, but not Savannah, and she remembered the answer 3 days later. When she didn't know something, she stopped pretending after the second time I caught her. I began to like teaching her. That was the first thing I would resent. The first Calder expansion call took place in our small glass conference room, the one employees called the aquarium. Daniel Cho joined from Calder's Chicago office with Maribel Santos from procurement and Richard Doss from ownership. Lacey opened with a crisp overview of Bellwether's national distribution reach. Then Richard asked whether the proposed brushed brass trim could be sourced from one production lot across the first 3 properties. Lacey glanced at me. I said, "Not if Nashville releases in June. The foundry changes its clear coat in May. We can reserve 1 lot for Denver and Savannah, but Nashville needs either an early deposit or a signed finish variance." Richard leaned toward his camera. "How visible is the variance?" "Visible enough that your designer will call it intentional and your guests will call it yellow." Daniel laughed. Maribel did not, but she wrote something down. Lacey recovered smoothly. "Nora has mapped 2 options with cost and timing. I'll send the comparison after this call." "We'll send it," I corrected. A tiny pause. "We'll send it," she said. Afterward, she followed me to the break room. I wasn't trying to take it, she said. Then don't say I when you mean Nora. You corrected me in front of the client. You volunteered me in front of the client. She pressed her lips together. Fair. That surprised me. At 5:30, she sent the comparison from a shared email with both our names above the signature. I noticed because small fairness feels enormous when you're already preparing for theft. The trouble began with the Harbor Regent mock-up. Calder's designer rejected the new brushed brass samples under the sweet lighting. The supplier had shifted the coating, exactly as I had warned. 800 trim kits were already staged in Ohio, and the first truck was supposed to leave Monday. At 6:12 on Friday evening, Lacey called me from the airport. I need you to tell me there's another finish. There's another finish. Oh, thank God. It won't match the lobby fixtures. Less God. I opened the valve matrix from my kitchen table while Owen cooked eggs because our refrigerator contained eggs, mustard, and a lemon that had become theoretical. The approved lobby finish came from another manufacturer, but its trim would not fit Calder's installed valve bodies. I found an adapter certified for the same pressure class, then called Luis Ortega at the warehouse. Luis answered with, "If you say rush order, I'm hanging up." Emergency romance. Worse. By 9, we had a workable chain. Reserve the alternate trim, secure the adapters, send 2 sets to Calder for morning review, and hold the Ohio shipment. Maribel approved the samples Saturday afternoon. Daniel authorized the cost variance. I updated the matrix, attached every approval, and marked the affected salesperson code NP-2047 because the manufacturer rebate required the originating technical seller. On Monday, Martin gathered the branch around the sales board. "Lacey saved Harbor Regent," he announced. She stood beside him, holding the 2 rejected samples like props from a crime show. Martin described the alternate trim, the adapter, and the shipping hold. My shipping hold. Luis was leaning against the warehouse door with his arms folded. When Martin finished, he looked toward me, perhaps expecting a supportive nod. I asked, "Who selected the adapter?" The room tightened. Lacey looked down at the samples. Nora did. Martin's smile remained in place. As part of the team, Lacey led. Who obtained Calder's written variants? "Nora," Lacey said. Martin turned to her. She swallowed. "With Luis." Luis lifted one finger. It was a small thing. It felt wonderful. At my desk, 10 minutes later, an email arrived from Martin. Need to discuss collaboration and executive presence. Below it was a calendar invitation for 8 the next morning. At 7:58, I carried the brass valve into his office and set it beside my notebook. I had started bringing it to meetings where details might later become opinions. Martin closed the door. "You embarrass Lacey," he said. I asked 2 questions. You undermined the person leading the account. You still haven't sent the account split. He removed his glasses and folded them carefully. "Nora, this is the exact rigidity I've been trying to help you with. Lacey brings people together. I kept 800 wrong trim kits from reaching a hotel. And no one disputes your technical contribution. Contribution." He pushed a single sheet of paper across the desk. At the top, in bold, were the words, "Performance Alignment Plan." My throat tightened before I read the first line. Martin saw it. He had been waiting to see it. "This is unnecessary," he said softly. "If you can show me you understand where you fit." "Where I fit," I repeated. Martin leaned back. "You're the strongest technical seller in the region. I'm asking you to operate like one." I thought Lacey was the seller. She's the strategic account lead. Then this plan should say I failed at a technical duty. It doesn't. I read it again, slower this time. The page accused me of creating unnecessary friction, resisting evolving team structures, and undermining confidence in leadership. There were no dates, no customer complaints, no missed targets. The measurable goals were things like demonstrate flexibility and support account cohesion. Under employee comments, I wrote, Received on Tuesday at 8:14 a.m. I do not agree with the characterizations above. Please provide specific incidents, dates, policies, and measurable expectations. Martin watched my pen move. You're turning a coaching conversation into a legal deposition. I'm asking what you want me to do. I just told you. Fit. His jaw flexed. You can make this very difficult for yourself. I'm beginning to understand that. I signed only the receipt line, took a photograph with my phone, and slid the page back. When I picked up the brass valve, the wire tag caught on the spiral of my notebook. Martin reached to free it, but I did it first. By noon, the Calder meetings disappeared from my calendar. The Denver coordination call went first, then Savannah finishes, then the weekly installation review I had attended for 7 years. Each cancellation came from Lacey's account with the same note, updating attendance to streamline communication. At 1:15, Martin stopped at my desk and dropped a thin folder beside my keyboard. New focus accounts. Inside were 16 restaurant and medical office service accounts, most of them small, irritated, and overdue for equipment they had ordered before being transferred twice. You put me on faucet cartridges, I said. Customer retention is important. One of these has spent $800 this year. Then imagine how grateful they'll be to have our strongest technical seller. Across the aisle, Lacey stared at her monitor with an intensity normally required for bomb disposal. I carried the folder into the warehouse. Luis was checking chrome sink grids against a packing list, tapping each box with the eraser end of a pencil. He gave you the orphan drawer, he said. You have a name for it? We have names for everything. Bay 6 is divorce court. What happens in Bay 6? Cabinet hardware. I put the folder on a carton. Can he change the salesperson on Calder after the orders are released? Luis stopped tapping. He can change the account owner in the CRM, he said. That changes whose picture shows up when sales leadership looks at the dashboard. The order system keeps the originating code unless accounting reverses and rebuilds each order. How many? Released or quoted? Everything. He gave a low whistle. A lot. Could accounting do it? They could also move the building 3 feet to the left. Doesn't make it a good Tuesday. He pulled up a Calder shipment on the warehouse terminal. The header showed Lacey as strategic owner. Beneath it, on every line item, was NP-2047. That code talks to the vendor claims, he said. Change it after shipment and the rebate support won't match Calder's authorization. Daniel's people reject mismatched files. Martin knows that? Martin taught us to stop changing codes after release, back when he cared about getting paid more than getting photographed. That afternoon, Lacey waited until most of the sales floor had emptied before coming to my desk. She set down a printed proposal with yellow tabs along the side. I need you to look at Savannah. I'm not on Savannah. Don't do that. Do what? Make me say the humiliating part out loud. I looked at the proposal. Which humiliating part? I can present this. I can negotiate it. I can get Richard to choose an option before he talks himself into inventing a fourth one. But I don't know if these bodies will work with the wall carriers they approved. They won't. Her eyes closed briefly. How bad? 240 rooms of bad. Can you help me fix it? Send it to the Calder fulfillment channel. Martin told me to keep technical review internal. I am internal. He means between us. Then he can ask between us, in writing. She lowered her voice. You're putting me in the middle. You're standing in the middle. I didn't put you there. For a second, her face hardened. Then she gathered the proposal. I told him you should stay on the calls. What did he say? That you were having trouble adjusting. And did you tell him you were having trouble identifying a wall carrier? Her cheeks colored. You enjoy being right more than you pretend. I enjoyed you being honest more than you noticed. She left with the proposal tucked against her ribs. 9 minutes later, she posted it in the shared channel. Can someone confirm compatibility before client release? Nora raised a concern with the specified bodies. She could have omitted my name. She didn't. I answered in the channel, copied Luis, and attached the manufacturer section showing the conflict. By the next morning, we had a compatible assembly at a 4% lower cost. Maribel replied to the thread, "Good catch, Nora. Please preserve this note with the authorization file." Martin summoned both of us. His office blinds were open, making the conversation visible without making it audible. He stood behind his desk instead of sitting. "I asked for a simple internal check," he told Lacey. "I put it in an internal channel. With 8 people. 6, Luis called from the warehouse doorway as he passed. Martin waited until Luis was gone. The client didn't need to see our uncertainty. "Maribel was already on the channel," I said. "It exists for client authorizations. You knew exactly what you were doing." "Yes, preventing another incompatible order." He looked at Lacey. "Would you give us a minute?" She hesitated. That was new. Then she left. Martin lowered his voice. "Your performance plan requires collaboration." I collaborated in the place where Calder keeps approvals. "You're building a paper trail." "I'm doing my job in writing." His expression changed. Not much. The anger went away, which worried me more. Martin was most dangerous after he stopped needing to win the current conversation. "You've made your position clear," he said. The following Friday, he made his. Bellwether's revised incentive memo arrived at 4:47 p.m. The new formula gave 60% of Calder's bonus credit to strategic account leadership, 25% to revenue growth, and 15% to technical support. It applied to the full quarter, including the months before Lacey became account lead. I printed it and walked to Martin's office. He was putting on his coat. "This changes compensation retroactively. It clarifies team-based incentives. It reduces my projected bonus from $42,000 to $6,300. If the portfolio closes, the first 6 properties are already released. Revenue recognition isn't the same as account leadership. You wrote the original plan, and the original plan gave managers discretion. Discretion isn't a number." He buttoned his coat. "Take the weekend, get some perspective." "Was this reviewed by payroll?" "It will be. That means no. It means I'm done discussing it at 5 on Friday." I held up the memo. "When did Lacey see this?" He glanced toward the empty sales floor. "That's not your concern." "It became my concern Monday morning when she appeared beside my car before I could close the door. The parking lot was still blue with dawn. She had 2 coffees and no makeup, and the combination made her look younger and much more tired." "I didn't ask him to do it," she said. "Did you know?" "He showed me Thursday. You waited until Monday. I spent the weekend trying to decide whether talking to you would make it worse." "For whom?" She handed me 1 coffee. I took it because refusing coffee at 6:45 required energy I didn't have. "He said the region needs a visible growth story," she said. "Corporate thinks this office is too dependent on legacy relationships. He wants to show them he can build a new sales model." "With my old sales. He thinks you'll stay." The plainness of it hurt worse than an excuse. "Why?" "Because you always have." She looked toward the building. Martin's office light was on. He told me if I can carry Calder through the audit, he'll recommend me for sales director. "You can't carry Calder through the audit." "I know." She said it without self-pity, which made me look at her. "What do you want me to do with that?" "I don't know yet. Figure it out before you bring me another coffee." I walked inside and began working the orphan drawer. The accounts were as miserable as promised. A cardiology office had received 12 sensor faucets and 11 control boxes. A restaurant owner named Glenn had been waiting 9 weeks for a replacement pre-rinse hose and had begun calling our general line every morning at 8:03. "Bellwether Supply," I said on Tuesday. "It's Glenn." "I know." "You psychic?" "You're punctual." By Thursday, I had found his hose sitting under the wrong purchase order in Bay 6. Luis held it up like an archaeological discovery. "Divorce court," he said. "Takes everything." The work was smaller than Calder, but it was still work, and the customers were still people whose days could be made harder by our laziness. I fixed what I could. I documented everything. Within 3 weeks, 14 of the 16 accounts were current. Martin cited the remaining 2 in my performance review. He also began routing Calder questions through Lacey after hours. My phone filled with messages that sounded casual and carried deadlines. Quick compatibility check? Do you remember the Denver freight allowance? Can you tell me which approval covers the alternate escutcheon? I answered each one the next business morning in the shared channel. Then Nashville nearly missed its loading window. A manufacturer had packed 2 finish lots under 1 release number. Lacey saw brushed brass on both labels and authorized pickup. Luis noticed the suffixes were different when the pallets reached our dock. At 7:18 p.m.e., he sent a photograph to the fulfillment channel. One carton read BB-41A. The other read BB-42C. Holding in Bay 3. Need disposition by 9 a.m. Lacey called me 3 times. I let the phone ring. Owen watched it buzz across the kitchen counter. You're not answering? It's in the channel. You know the answer? Yes. That looks like $42,000 calling. That money already has someone else's name on it. He turned off the burner. Dinner was grilled cheese because the floor buffer carburetor had required a part from Ohio, and the repair payment had not come in. You can be right after the loan is paid, he said. I stared at him. He rubbed both hands over his face. That came out wrong. It came out finished. I'm scared, Nora. So am I. Then why are you acting like you can afford principals at retail? Because Martin set the price, not me. The phone stopped ringing. Owen took the sandwiches from the pan and dropped them onto 2 plates harder than necessary. 1 more quarter, that's all I'm saying. Get through 1 more quarter, take whatever bonus is left, and then leave. Whatever bonus is left? You know what I mean. Yes, I said, I do. We ate at opposite ends of the table while the cheese cooled between us. At 7:46, Lacey posted the packing slips in the shared channel and asked whether the lots could be mixed. I answered there, no. Calder's finish schedule requires a single lot within each guest floor sightline. BB-42C can be used for service stock. Nashville needs BB-41A only, prior approval attached. Luis reacted with a checkmark. At 8:02 the next morning, he released the correct pallets. Later, he brought me the rejected BB-42C sample and set it beside my brass valve. Your trophy needed a friend, he said. Lacey arrived carrying the Nashville file. Thank you, she said. You found the suffixes. Luis found them. You posted the documents. After 3 calls. I was eating dinner. Were you? The question was soft enough to be kind. That irritated me. She looked at the 2 brass pieces on my desk. Martin told me you used to answer vendor calls from the shower. Martin used to put my name on the orders. She nodded once. Daniel's requesting a full rebate reconciliation. When? Quarterly meeting. He wants invoice-level support for all 6 completed properties. That's normal. Martin doesn't think so. The rebate file tied Calder's authorized purchase schedule to our invoices, then tied each invoice to the manufacturer claim. Every link carried an originating salesperson code. For years, mine had appeared without attracting attention because my name also appeared on the account. Now the front end said, Lacey Grant. The back end said, NP-2047. That afternoon, Martin asked me to bring the incentive memo to his office. A new document waited on his desk. The title at the top read Sales Operations Specialist. Beneath it was a $12,000 discretionary payment and a salary increase just large enough to sound respectful. The final paragraph said I acknowledged Lacey Grant as the originating salesperson and strategic owner of the Calder expansion. You want me to sign away the account, I said. I want to solve this. The new title removes commission eligibility. It gives you stability. It gives you $12,000 instead of $42,000 and makes the theft permanent. Martin's face tightened at the word. You need to be careful. I have been careful. That's why you need my signature. He came around the desk and sat in the chair beside mine, lowering himself into the posture of someone delivering difficult mercy. Nora, corporate already sees Lacey as the future of this office, fighting that won't restore the past. This gives you a protected lane, better base pay, and work you're exceptional at. And if I refuse, then the performance process continues. I looked at the blank signature line. On the corner of his desk sat a polished sample handle from Lacey's presentation kit, mounted on white acrylic. It was beautiful and useless without the valve inside the wall. Does she know about this offer? She understands the account structure. That isn't what I asked. Martin stood. Take it home. I left the document where it was. Daniel's audit request arrived the next morning. He wanted the rebate report presented at our quarterly sales meeting, with both bellwether account owners in attendance. Martin accepted within 6 minutes. Then he sent me a separate invitation with no message attached. Attendance required. I clicked accept. A minute later, Lacey messaged me. Did you get it? Yes. Are you going? Attendance required. She typed for long enough that the little dots began to feel like a medical test. Then they vanished. Martin called us into his office at 3. He had printed Daniel's request and marked it in green ink. Every line requiring supporting detail had my initials beside it. Every line involving presentation had Lacey's. Nora will build the invoice reconciliation, he said. Lacey will lead the client discussion. Who answers questions about the salesperson codes? I asked. You will describe them as technical routing codes. They're originating salesperson codes, internally. They're printed on the manufacturer claims. Martin tapped the paper. Daniel is reviewing Calder's rebate, not our incentive compensation. He asked for account ownership support, and Lacey is the account owner, the strategic owner in the CRM. There's no need to drown the client in our internal vocabulary. Lacey shifted in her chair. What happens if Daniel asks why Nora's code is on every order? We answer the question he asked, not the one she wants him to ask. I didn't request the audit, I said. Martin ignored me. Nora, send your working file to Lacey by Friday. After that, any revisions go through her. Rebate submissions come from accounting. You can copy accounting. Accounting has to certify them. His fingers stopped tapping. For 3 years, Tessa Bloom had handled our rebate claims from a cubicle beside the freight office. She was quiet, exact, and emotionally attached to matching totals. Tessa could forgive a late lunch, a broken stapler, and possibly arson. She could not forgive a spreadsheet that was off by 6 cents. Martin knew she would never certify a file routed through sales. I'll speak with Tessa, he said. By 10 the next morning, Tessa was standing at my desk holding Daniel's request at arm's length, as if it had acquired a smell. Martin says Lacey is supposed to approve my reconciliation. That's what he said. Lacey doesn't approve rebates. I told him. He used the phrase, process modernization. That's serious. He also asked whether NP-2047 could be relabeled as technical support. On old invoices? On the report. He wants the underlying system left alone. I looked toward Martin's office. He was on a call, smiling into his headset. Can you do that? I can label the column banana if I want. The vendor files still call it originating salesperson code, and Calder has copies of the authorizations. What did you tell him? That if he wanted a custom sales summary, sales could make one. My name wouldn't be on it. I smiled for the first time that week. Tessa pointed at me. Don't make this a courage thing. I like being employed. It's a matching total thing. It is absolutely a matching total thing. She took my valve matrix, my order export, and the 6 property authorization files back to her cubicle. By lunch, she had built a reconciliation with hyperlinks from every invoice to the corresponding Calder approval and vendor claim. All 187 completed sales lines carried NP-2047. Martin called her into his office. The conversation lasted 23 minutes. When she came out, her neck was red. "He wants separate columns for relationship owner and technical originator," she said. "That's accurate. He wants Lacey listed as relationship owner from the date the first property was quoted." "That isn't." "I asked for a change authorization." "From whom?" "Calder." I laughed, and Tessa tried not to. "Don't make me enjoy this," she said. Martin was more careful after that. He stopped asking anyone to alter the report. Instead, he changed the story around it. At Monday's sales huddle, he announced that Bellwether was introducing a team selling model. Senior technical personnel would support a new class of growth leaders capable of expanding strategic relationships. The language sounded polished because parts of it were true. We did need younger relationships. Calder's new owners did want faster presentations, cleaner dashboards, and one person who could answer without saying, "Let me ask the warehouse." Martin spoke about protecting 40 jobs in a changing market. He mentioned online competitors undercutting us on fixtures, manufacturers selling direct, and corporates' patience wearing thin. People listened because their paychecks lived inside those facts. Then he asked Lacey to explain how the model had accelerated Calder's expansion. She stood beside the sales board with a remote in her hand. "Nora's technical planning let us quote the properties as a portfolio," she said. "Luis's staging system reduced split shipments, and Tessa's rebate structure gave Calder cleaner cost tracking." Martin's smile held. "And your role?" he asked. "I brought the decision makers into one process and got Richard to approve cross-property standards." That was true, too. Before Lacey, Richard Doss had demanded separate proposals for every property, then revised each one based on whatever he had seen most recently. She had persuaded him to choose 3 standard room packages. It had saved weeks. Martin nodded. Leadership is making other people's expertise scalable. He delivered the line to the room, but his eyes stayed on me. Afterward, half the sales team avoided my desk. The other half found reasons to tell me they thought the new model made sense. I agreed with them. That confused people more than anger would have. "It makes sense if the compensation follows the work," I told Greg Halpern from Fixtures. "Would you hand 60% of your commission to someone for presenting your quote?" "Well, no." "Then we agree." Greg examined the carpet. "Martin says Calder wouldn't have expanded without Lacey." "Maybe not." He looked up, startled. "She did good work," I said. "That doesn't make mine hers." By Friday, Martin had revised my performance plan. He added failure to demonstrate confidence in strategic leadership and reluctance to respond with urgency. As evidence, he cited the 3 calls I had not answered during dinner. I attached screenshots showing the questions had been answered in the authorized channel before the warehouse deadline. He cited the 2 unresolved service accounts. I attached Glenn's email thanking me for finding his hose and a note from the medical office confirming delivery. He cited client confusion about roles. I requested the client complaint. He did not provide one. The paperwork grew. So did the space around me. At lunch, I ate in my car because conversation stopped when I entered the break room. I told myself I enjoyed the quiet. Then I dropped mustard on my blouse and cried hard enough to fog the windshield. Owen called while I was blotting the stain with a napkin. "Are you busy?" "Very." I sold the diagnostic scanner. I sat up. "You need that." "I have the old one." "The old one lies about voltage." "So do customers." Owen. "It covers this month's loan payment." The shame in his voice met mine and made both of us gentler. "You shouldn't have done that," I said. "You shouldn't have to answer work calls during dinner to prove we deserve our house. That's not what this is." I know, I was wrong. I looked through the windshield at Bellwether's loading docks. Luis was outside guiding a delivery truck backward with one hand raised. "I don't know how long this goes," I said. Then we stopped pretending endurance is a plan. What does that mean? It means if they fire you, we deal with it. If the shop fails, we deal with it. If we sell the house, we deal with that too. My chest tightened. I don't want to sell the house. Neither do I. I'm saying Martin doesn't get to use it as a leash just because I got scared. A truck horn sounded behind him. Are you working in the road? Possibly. Please don't get run over during the apology. I'll finish indoors. That evening, I brought home copies of the incentive plan, my original compensation terms, the performance documents, and the proposed operations title. Owen cleared the carburetor parts from the table. We arranged the papers by date. There was no single document that saved me. There was only a sequence. Martin assigned me Calder. He named Lacey strategic lead but never changed my commission plan. My code remained on every quote, order, authorization, claim, and completed invoice. After I requested the split, he placed me on a performance plan. After the Harbor Regent recovery, he changed the bonus formula. After I documented work in shared channels, he offered me a smaller payment in exchange for acknowledging that Lacey originated the account. Owen read the final paragraph twice. He needs your signature because he can't prove his version without it. Yes? What are you going to do? Let him present his version. Owen looked at me over the papers. That sounds either smart or terrifying. It can be both. I emailed Tessa and asked for a clean copy of the certified reconciliation when it was complete. I asked Luis for release records tied to the finish lot holds and adapter substitutions. I exported the shared channel approvals while I still had access. Then I wrote a short response to Martin's offer. I decline the proposed role and payment. I remain available to perform my current duties under the compensation terms in effect when the Calder expansion orders were originated and completed. I copied payroll. The next morning, payroll asked Martin for the signed incentive amendment authorizing the retroactive formula. He didn't have one. At 11, he closed his office door and kept it closed until nearly 4. When he emerged, he walked directly to my desk. You copied payroll. They administer compensation. You're escalating an internal disagreement days before our most important client review. I declined your offer. You accused me of theft only in your office. His face went still. Be very sure you want to keep using that word. Then give me a more accurate one. He looked at the brass valve. The BB-42C sample still sat beside it, brighter and more yellow under the desk lamp. You've mistaken documentation for leverage, he said. Corporate cares about growth, retention, and leadership. Lacey has all 3 attached to her name. Then you don't need mine. He left without answering. Lacey came by near closing. He's giving me an award at the quarterly meeting, she said. For what? Calder growth. Congratulations, don't. You brought the ownership group into one process. That mattered. He showed me the slide. It says I generated all portfolio revenue. I shut down my monitor. What did you tell him? That it wasn't accurate. And? He said leadership means accepting credit for the team. That's a creative definition. She leaned against the partition. There's an envelope. I waited. He called it a growth bonus. I asked whose budget it came from. He said discretionary funds. He revised my projected bonus to $6,300. His offer was $12,000. I know. How? Her eyes filled, but her voice stayed level. Because the envelope says $42,000. For a moment, the office sounded unusually sharp. The copier feeding paper, a forklift beeping in reverse, Tessa snapping a binder closed. You can refuse it, I said. He'll say I'm not ready. Are you? She flinched. I didn't mean... Yes, you did. She straightened and walked away. The quarterly meeting began at 9 on Thursday. Martin had rearranged the conference room so the regional sales staff faced the screen, with Daniel Cho and Maribel Santos seated near the front. Tessa sat against the wall with the certified rebate file open on her laptop. Luis remained near the door, still in his warehouse jacket. I placed my legal pad on the table and set the brass valve beside it. The wire tag rested against the wood. Calder Harbor Suite, 418. Martin opened with regional numbers. He was calm, persuasive, and very good at his job. He explained how Calder's expansion had offset losses in restaurant construction. He He credited Lacey with consolidating decision-makers and praised fulfillment for execution. Then the gold slide appeared behind him. Lacey's photograph. Top growth partner. He called her to the front and handed her the envelope. "She earned your entire bonus," he announced, looking directly at me. The sentence moved through the room like cold air. Lacey held the envelope with both hands. She didn't open it. Martin began listing properties. Harbor Regent, Savannah Grand, Denver Union, Nashville House. Each one held a piece of my work inside its walls. I stayed quiet. Daniel opened the client-authorized rebate report. Tessa had linked every completed sale to its supporting invoice, vendor claim, substitution approval, and salesperson code. He scrolled once, then again. "Nora," he said, "is there a reason your name is on all of these?" Martin answered before I could. "Nora's code is used for technical routing. Lacey owns the relationship and generated the sales." Daniel turned his laptop so Maribel could see. Maribel reached for the brass valve beside my pad and read the faded tag. Then she looked at the sample number in the Harbor Regent authorization. "It's the same number," she said. Daniel clicked into the supporting documents. My matrix appeared. My finish lot hold, my adapter selection, my coded quotes. Calder's signed approvals addressed to me. He looked from the report to Lacey's envelope. "Which version?" he asked. "Are you asking Calder to certify?" Martin rested both palms on the table. "There's only one version," he said. "The report reflects operational support. The account presentation reflects commercial leadership." Daniel looked at the column heading. "Originating salesperson code. That's a legacy label." Tessa spoke from the wall. "It's the label used in Bellwether's vendor agreements." Martin turned toward her. "Tessa." "And Calder's rebate schedule," she added, quieter. Daniel looked at me. "Nora, I asked you." My pulse was beating in my throat. I put one hand around the brass valve because it was heavy and cool and incapable of changing its story. "The code is assigned when a salesperson originates a quoted line," I said. "It follows the line through the order, invoice, manufacturer claim, and client rebate. NP-2047 is mine." "Did you originate these lines?" "Yes." "All 187? "Yes." Martin pulled out the chair beside him. "This is an internal compensation dispute that has no bearing on Calder's rebate." Maribel was still examining the valve tag. "It bears on our records if the person identified as our account lead can't authenticate the substitutions. Lacey can authenticate them." Maribel looked at Lacey. "Who selected the Harbor Regent adapter?" Lacey stared at the envelope in her hands. "Nora." "Who caught the Nashville finish lots?" "Luis." "Who documented the disposition?" "Nora." "And who approved the cost variance?" "Daniel." Daniel's mouth moved slightly. "At Nora's request." Martin sat down. The room had gone so still that I heard the soft click when Lacey laid the envelope on the table. She slid it toward him. "I can't accept this," she said. His eyes stayed on hers. "We'll discuss it later." "I'm discussing it now." "Lacey, you earned recognition for leading the relationship. Then recognize that. Don't pay me her bonus and call it mine." A red patch climbed Martin's neck. "This is exactly why compensation discussions are confidential. You announced the amount in front of everyone. I announced an award. You said entire bonus." The envelope stopped against his legal pad. He didn't touch it. Daniel closed one file and opened the rebate summary. "Calder can approve $380,000 against a report Bellwether is characterizing two different ways," he said. "We're placing the rebate under review." Martin's head snapped toward him. "Daniel, that would put us outside the quarter." "Yes. Our manufacturers have already accrued against these claims. Then we should resolve it quickly. What exactly do you need?" "A corrected account attribution for every completed property. Confirmation that the compensation dispute doesn't affect the integrity of the invoice chain, and one responsible contact authorized to certify the file. I can certify it." Daniel's gaze moved to the report, then back to Martin. "You just told me its principal column doesn't mean what the agreement says it means." The words landed softly. That made them worse. Martin called a break. Chairs scraped back. Greg escaped first, carrying an empty coffee cup as if he had been assigned to evacuate it. Tessa stayed by the wall. Luis remained near the door. Maribel took the brass valve from my hand, compared the engraved sample number with the authorization again, and placed it carefully beside my legal pad. "Don't leave," Martin said to me. "I need some air." That wasn't a request. Daniel looked up from his laptop. "I still need Nora for the file review." Martin's face changed by degrees. "Of course." In the hallway, my knees began shaking. I made it to the warehouse before I had to sit down. Luis found me on an overturned bucket beside Bay 3, elbows on my thighs, staring at the BB-42C cartons we had held weeks earlier. "You look terrible," he said. "Thank you." "You're welcome." He sat on a pallet across from me. "I thought that would feel better," I said. "It might later. What if they say I compromise the client relationship?" You answered a question. "What if they fire me for the performance plan? Then I steal your stapler before they inventory the desk." I laughed once, painfully. Luis leaned forward. "You didn't put that envelope in her hand." I put her in a corner. Martin built the corner. She finally looked at the walls. The warehouse door opened. Lacey stepped through, still carrying herself as if the entire sales floor could see her. "Daniel wants us both," she said. "Did Martin send you?" "No." She sat on a carton marked lavatory trim, polished chrome. "I thought he'd give me 12,000, she said. "That would have been mine too." "I know." Her eyes were swollen, but her voice had regained its smoothness. I could see the saleswoman returning because she needed her. "He told me the rest of your bonus had been absorbed by the team model," she said. "Then he handed me the full amount in front of you. What did you think was in the envelope?" "A letter, maybe a symbolic check. I didn't know until Tuesday." "You had 2 days." "I spent one of them convincing myself you'd never find out the amount." "I already knew. I figured that out." Luis stood. "Daniel is waiting, and this box has an unfortunate weight rating." Lacey got off it. Back in the conference room, Tessa walked Daniel and Maribel through the rebate links. Martin returned with his jacket off and his sleeves rolled neatly to the forearms. He had recovered enough to be useful. He asked good questions. He identified 2 duplicate freight credits and found a missing tax exemption on the Denver invoice. For 40 minutes, we worked the way we could have worked from the beginning. Tessa on claims, Luis on releases, Lacey on client decisions, me on technical originations, Martin watching the margin. The report balanced to the cent. Daniel still would not approve it. "The arithmetic is fine," he said. "The certification issue remains." Martin pushed his chair back. "I'll get you corrected documentation by Monday." "From whom?" "Regional leadership." That was the first time he admitted the decision had moved beyond him. He asked me to stay after Calder's team left. I stayed with Tessa. "This is a management conversation," he said. "Then management can send me the questions in writing." "You've created serious exposure for the branch. The report created the question. You knew Daniel would react. I knew he would read." Martin looked at Tessa. "Could you give us privacy?" Tessa hugged her laptop to her chest. "I'm the person certifying the rebate." He almost ordered her out. I watched him decide he could not afford another witness describing another room differently. "You'll work from home until the review is complete," he told me. "Am I suspended?" "No." "Am I being disciplined?" "No." "Will I retain system access?" "For your assigned service accounts." "And Calder?" "Lacey will manage Calder." Tessa's eyebrows rose. "Please send that direction to both of us," I said. "I don't need you coaching me on documentation. I need to know which duties I'm expected to perform." His hand closed around the back of a chair. "Go home, Nora." I packed my laptop, the performance documents, and the brass valve. The BB-42C sample stayed behind. It belonged to the warehouse record, not me. At home, Owen saw the valve sticking out of my bag and shut off the floor buffer he was testing in the garage. That bad? I think I won. His face went pale. That bad. We sat on the garage floor with our backs against the workbench while I told him everything. When I reached the part where Daniel suspended the rebate, Owen whistled. That's the quarter Martin was trying to save. Yes. And Lacey gave the money back? The envelope? There wasn't cash in it. You know what I mean. I'm tired of knowing what everyone means. He nodded. Fair. My phone buzzed. Bellwether's regional director, Alana Pierce, wanted a video meeting the next morning with payroll and operations. Owen read the message over my shoulder. What are you asking for? My job. That's not what I asked. I rested the brass valve on my knee. The old wire tag brushed my thumb. Full coded sales credit, the original bonus, the commissions they held after moving my accounts, written attribution rules, and I don't report to Martin. Good. They'll say that's too much. Then let them use Lacey's code on the rebate. They can't. His smile was small and tired. Sounds like negotiation. Alana opened the meeting by saying she wanted facts. I gave her dates. Payroll confirmed I had never signed the revised incentive formula. Tessa confirmed the order codes matched the vendor claims. Luis's release records showed my initials on the finish holds and substitutions. The shared channels showed when the work had been performed and who had requested it. Martin joined 15 minutes late with a prepared statement about modernizing Bellwether's sales culture. He was persuasive. He explained the branch's shrinking margins, the need to develop Lacey, and the danger of allowing senior employees to hoard client knowledge. He acknowledged that communication around compensation had been imprecise, then argued that my public resistance had damaged trust. Alana asked why the performance plan began the morning after Harbor Regent. Martin said the timing was unrelated. Payroll asked why his proposed operations agreement required me to acknowledge Lacey as the originating seller. Martin said the language was intended to clarify roles. I held up the document. Then remove that paragraph and pay the original bonus. He looked at me through the screen. That doesn't address your conduct. What conduct? Refusing direct calls, escalating routine questions, challenging account leadership in front of the client. I answered the calls in Calder's authorized channel. The routine questions involved incompatible valves and mixed finish lots. The client asked me about its own report. Alana took off her glasses. I need the emails supporting both account assignments, she said. Nora's and Lacey's. Lacey sent hers that afternoon. They included Martin's instructions to present my recovery plans in first-person language, his promise to recommend her for sales director if she carried Calder through the audit, and his warning that excessive credit to technical staff would make her look unready. She also sent messages where she had agreed. That mattered. She did not clean herself up before handing over the evidence. The review lasted 11 business days. I spent them fixing service accounts from my dining room table and waking at 4 each morning convinced my password would fail. Owen borrowed a diagnostic scanner from another repair shop. We paid the loan 3 days late and absorbed the fee. On the 12th day, Alana offered me my original position, full Calder credit and back pay. I declined. Her silence lasted several seconds. What are you proposing? A strategic fulfillment role with commission eligibility on accounts I originate. Shared authority with Luis on release standards. Compensation changes reviewed by payroll before they take effect. Account attribution visible to clients and employees using the same definitions. You're asking us to build a position around a dispute. I'm asking you to build it around the work Calder already depends on. And reporting? To regional operations for 6 months. After that, we review it. She studied me. Anything else? My bonus. That's included. Say the number. $42,000 plus $9,400 in withheld commissions. My hands started trembling below the camera. Put it in writing, I said. Martin remained at Bellwether through the reconciliation. Alana removed his authority over compensation and strategic account assignments while she reviewed the rest of the branch. His title changed from regional sales manager to senior account manager, which meant he kept his salary for the transition and lost the room where he had used it. For 3 weeks, he corrected Calder's attribution line by line. Sometimes we worked at opposite ends of the same table. He never apologized. I never asked him to. He was still good at finding freight leakage and still capable of making a supplier concede a cost they had sworn was fixed. The first time he forwarded a corrected order, he wrote, "Please confirm originating seller." I replied, "Confirmed, NP-2047. Lacey kept her job. The sales director recommendation disappeared. She and I learned how to work together with doors open and names attached. When payroll deposited the bonus and commissions, Owen and I sat at the kitchen table staring at the bank screen. "Pay it," he said. I submitted the loan payment. The confirmation appeared so quickly that it felt disrespectful to the months it had frightened us. Owen exhaled. "I'm buying my scanner back." "You're buying a better one. Look at you, spending the remaining $12. At the next quarterly meeting, I carried the brass valve into the conference room. Luis was already there, arguing with Tessa about whether 6 cents counted as a rounding error. It did not. I set the valve between Luis's seat and mine. The scratch tag faced outward. Daniel joined on video. Lacey opened the Calder update, credited Richard's standard packages, and handed the operational review to me. I opened the new rebate report. Beside every sale I had earned was my name. Beside every release Luis had protected was his. Lacey's relationship work appeared under hers. The brass valve rested between us, ordinary again, holding the whole thing together.